Mykonos Offshore Regatta is brought to you by Club Mykonos, Langebaan. Calm conditions were far from what was forecast for the popular Mykonos Offshore Regatta. Now in its 23rd year, it caters for both professional and recreational sailors and is billed as a downwind dash in normally strong southerly winds. For many of the 1,000-odd competitors, it was to be a fun sailing adventure, but for the professionals who were in it to win, they would have to work hard in the drifter-type conditions.
It's one of our most favourite popular races on the racing calendar at Royal Cape Yacht Club. It's the biggest offshore keelboat race. We have in the past about 110 entries. It's run over 2 days. We start at Royal Cape Yacht Club with the initial race going all the way to Langebaan, and we have a second day of racing in Saldanha Bay.
It's the modern sailor's version of a local mini transatlantic with all the thrills of an exciting downwind run, but with almost zero wind at the start, there was little chance of breaking the 5 hours 17-minute record set by Warrior in 2002. On a sea that looked more like Mercury, concentration levels still had to be high, with numerous sail changes and delicate helm adjustments on the 65 nautical mile course to Mykonos.
Basically, we have it broken down into 4 races. The first race races from here through a gate into Dasson Island. From Dasson Island, they race through the heads into Saldanha Bay, all the way into Mykonos. Then we have an overall race, which we count from the beginning right through to the end. So we have 4 races over the whole 2 days. I think there's a real competition in this race. It's a set leg from start to finish, and there's a race on with a time to beat.
Several new generation yachts have entered the offshore racing circuit. Designed as downwind speedsters, these lightweight, high-tech racers were also faced with the daunting prospect of a very long day on the water. Cape Fling, a new Curve 46 light displacement high-performance racing yacht, has been optimized for IRC racing and benefits from technical advancements in fluid dynamics and composite design. Cape Fling is modeled on Tonnerre, a Curve 46 that recently took the international racing circuit by storm.
Tonnerre is a Curve 46, and of course Jason Kerr was the designer for Chossalosa, so he's very familiar with the waters down here. Tonnerre has been hugely successful, winning Round Britain, winning Round Ireland and the RORC Boat of the Year. This is a development of Tonnerre, but in some ways quite different. The shape of the bow is in particular is different, which doesn't seem to stop us taking enormous amounts of water on board when we're going fast. This boat is much lighter than last year's boat. It's probably nearly 2 tons lighter, has almost the same amount of sail area, so its power to performance, or power to weight, is much better.
In the past, IRC racing tended to favour the heavier displacement boats in the 40-foot range, but with new designs and the latest technology, all of that has now changed. Vulcan is an all-carbon Grand Prix 42-foot racer that was successfully used by the Spanish America's Cup team and was brought to South Africa to break records.
The interesting thing for us is that we've brought the latest generation racing yacht over to South Africa. For a number of years we've sailed with the same fleet, and I think it started stagnating a bit. I'm pleased that it's regenerated the racing here in South Africa. The GP42, or in particular Vulcan, is basically an all-rounder. So what the idea was to create an all-rounder that could do very well upwind, but the fun factor is in the big strong winds going downwind, and that's really, I think, the attraction of the boat. The designers have got a lot more access to information and technology, and they're now designing boats around the rule that can actually can surf and you can have a lot of fun and win. So it's attracting the youngsters back to the fleet, which is really what it's all about, is to make it a funky sport again.
Much like Formula One motor racing, the professional era of ocean racing has brought with it the formula of shared responsibility. It's no longer a one-man show, and each member of the crew plays a very valuable role.
Now with boats being more high-tech and harder to sail, and the races becoming too competitive, you need someone to just sit there and steer the boat as fast as possible, so you're always going as fast as you possibly can. As a tactician now, what happens is you become not the skipper, the helmsman is still the skipper if anything goes wrong, but you now make all the racing decisions, where you're going to go, what you're going to do, what maneuvers you're going to do, so that the skipper can just keep his head down and drive the boat as fast as he possibly can. So my job is to actually keep my head out the boat and look and try guesstimate what the wind is going to do, whereas they can tell me information on what the wind is doing now and what the boat speed is doing now and what have you. So their role is limited to the present, where my role goes into the future.
Having battled the extremely light conditions all the way, Phil Gucci's 60-foot Warrior, skippered by Rick Nankin, was first to enter the heads at Saldanha Bay. After a long day on the water, even the pretty Mykonos girls with champagne couldn't raise the spirits. It took Warrior nearly 11 hours to complete the 65 nautical miles, a far cry from the record of just over 5 hours that she set in 2002.
We never really had spinnaker up until just before South Head. So all the way from Dassin, the wind hadn't swung enough to allow you to put spinnaker up. But then the west had swung enough for the boats that were further back, half an hour behind us. And so they had spinnaker up most of the way. And of course then the breeze came with them. So we sailed well, we got a bit of luck, but we didn't get enough.
On the professional ocean racing circuit, the navigator's role is a lot more than just telling the skipper and crew where to go. It requires in-depth calculations and detailed data analysis to improve on performance.
On a high-level racing boat like this, it's a lot more in-depth. We do a lot more calculations and a hell of a lot more information than just saying that's the way to go. On the water, my responsibility is to keep the guys honest, so when we're sailing to targets, if we're not sailing to targets, are we too high or too low? What the course to steer is? Are we on that course? Once entering the heads, it becomes a lot more technical. You know, a boat like Warrior has a really deep draft, so we need to. I need to be really on top of my game, making sure that we're sailing the right course. We're not going to hit any rocks. And it's really cool coming through the heads between the islands, getting to the finish. There's a lot of technical stuff and a lot of places you need to watch out for. So it's quite fun.
The big guns Cape Fling and Vulcan managed to close the gap on Warrior in the closing stages of the leg up to Mykonos. Only managing an average speed of around 5 knots, Cape Fling finished in second place, just 20 minutes behind the line honours winner. Ocean racing yachts are given a handicap rating, a formula that takes into account the boat's weight, water length, and other design features that contribute to the boat's performance. The formula is applied to the boat's elapsed time to give a corrected time on handicap. Even though Vulcan finished Friday's race in third place, just 25 minutes behind the winner, her International Rating Certification, or IRC rating, gave her the lead on handicap.
Yeah, you know, we always look for the southeaster for the Mykonos Offshore, but it just didn't materialize. So we had a really light day. It was a really long day. So the record was not in jeopardy of being broken. Yeah, we did a massive amount of sail changes. The wind just varied it went from northeast, northerly, northwest, southwest. So the tactician really had to be on his toes. And sometimes he got the calls right and sometimes he got them a little bit wrong. But fortunately for yesterday, he got the calls more right than wrong.
Mykonos has played a pivotal role in developing the regatta into the largest keelboat racing event in the country. Management and staff once again pulled out all the stops to ensure that this year's event was a huge success. Credit must also go to the marina manager Anshin Stemmet, who managed to accommodate almost the entire fleet in the newly upgraded marina facilities. Club Mykonos is a little piece of Greece on the west coast, making it an ideal holiday destination. With a safe harbour and modern facilities, it has also become the ultimate sailing destination for one of the country's premier sailing events.
It's an extremely important event here. We thoroughly enjoy hosting it every year. We're very glad that we can keep it going for 23 years. Club Mykonos is a little Greek village, so it's a little piece of Greece on the west coast. We've tried to make it like a proper little town. So it's got restaurants and shops and a casino and lovely calivas, and for the yachting guys there's everything they'll need, and it's a little slice of Greece. We've just finished 100 million rands worth of refurbishment, which is quite an accolade for us. And it included refurbing the calivas, so they're all upgraded to almost a 4-star standard. We've spent a good couple on our indoor spa and the indoor pool, and that's a lovely facility that we've added. Included in the 100 million is also the upgrade to the casino. We're expanding constantly, and we've just added some more berthing, so we now can accommodate 188 yachts or vessels, if you like. And at the same time, our boat yard has come on nicely. We've got a fantastic service where you can not only store your boat in the garage, but they'll launch it for you as well, included in the fee. And there's a service team, so we're trying to expand constantly. We've tried to focus on the whole family, so the kids and the restaurants we've poured a lot of energy and money into getting those right. There's pretty much nothing else on the west coast that can compare to this. In fact, I think we're the only privately owned marina in South Africa. So we're very proud of that, and it's a fantastic facility.
In any ocean racing event, there's no compromise for safety. The volunteer crews from the NSRI's Station 4 at Mykonos have always had a close association with the Regatta, as well as the local community, providing an essential service along this vast stretch of coastline.
We are very privileged to be in the area where it is just north up of the West Coast National Park, and it's also a marine protected area, and also the national park on itself. And a lot of people use the lagoon for their sports, like kayaking, windsurfing, kiteboarding, swimming events, and that as well. We do most of our work inside the lagoon for rescue purposes. Then to the south of us is Fontaine. We will meet each other about halfway to serve this area. But from here on up to the north of Namibia coast, we are the last station. Unfortunately, when there's trouble with somebody in the water, it's normally when it's rough conditions. It happens like on a Sunday afternoon after you had a good meal and you think you're going to have a bit of a nap or something. You get a call out and everybody gets rushed to the station, and we have to see what we can do, to save somebody's life. And that's what it is about. It's saving lives at sea.
Saturday's racing consisted of a pursuit race over 26 nautical miles around Saldanha Bay. The wind finally picked up, and with a 10 to 15 knot southerly breeze, it was race on. Starting at different times according to each boat's handicap, the smaller, slower boats started first, with the fastest and highest handicap boats starting last.
So we have a starting around 10:30 with the last boats going off around 1 o'clock, and the guys love to pursue each other around this race course, inevitably hoping that it ends most boats crossing the line at the same time, if all's fair and fair. And the overall winner is the first to cross the line.
Touch and Go, skippered by David Smith in Division 1, was quickly caught by Robbie van Rooyen on the far 38 AL, who had started 3 minutes later. AL, one of the premier racing yachts in the IRC division, has a relatively good handicap rating and was first to finish the pursuit race in 2012 to secure second place overall in that regatta. Being highly competitive, Robbie and his crew stood a good chance of clinching a first place yet again. Trygve Roberts on Regent Express was one of the 3 Pacer 27s participating in Division 2. They had a disastrous race up to Mykonos and only finished after midnight. They were closely followed by Anthony Wentworth on Felix the Cat, who won the Pacer National Champs as part of last year's regatta. In a light but steady southerly breeze, the 3 Pacers and the far 38 AL had started together, but it was AL who easily rounded the weather mark well ahead of the 3 Pacers, who were within a few seconds of each other. YOLO, skippered by Dale Kushner, is another high-tech yacht that recently entered the racing circuit. The Genoa Sunfast 32 is a fast and versatile racing yacht, perfect for both round-the-buoy and offshore racing. Adapted for performance cruising and racing means that this 32-footer can also be sailed with a limited number of crew.
We had a 42-footer, and we took quite a rational decision saying you need to muster 12 to 14 people to race a 42-footer. Short-handed sailing worldwide is in the up. A 32-footer out of Cape Town is perfect. For us, in the 32-foot production range, this is one of the faster production boats you can get. Well proven, good track record, good designer, coming out of one of the most reputable boat yards in the world. It's a balsa boat which makes it light. It's very wide, it's got twin rudders, but at the same time, it's got a fully functional interior. Most racing boats have pipe cots and a totally stripped out interior. This is a minimal interior. It's not cluttered, but in fact it's got all the things that you require, and you can race or cruise a boat like this if you wanted to.
Speed of Yellow, one of the J boats competing in the IRC division, had already made good time, beating to the weather mark on the 2 nautical mile leg to the most southern point on the course. Rounding the weather mark to starboard, most opted for masthead spinnakers for the downward run to the market dial rock. At 5.5 nautical miles, it's one of the longest legs of the pursuit race. Tenacity, skippered by Errol Stern and Rob Meek, is yet another of the new generation high-tech craft on the racing circuit. This J111 is hot off the drawing board and is one of a kind in South Africa. She's a fast 36-1 design with lots of speed to burn, making her ideal for both the racing circuit and weekend cruising.
Well, this J-boat is not as high-tech as some of the other boats that are made of carbon fibre. This is a fiberglass boat, but it has been optimized and it has all the latest design technology in the boat. It's got a bulb keel, it's got this carbon fibre bowsprit, and it's got a massive spinnaker. So it really has optimized the design side of it. You know, when we get our southeasters blowing here, the wind can go up to 40 knots. And when we started sailing this boat, we were just crashing all over the place, broaching in the jibes, mast almost in the water. But as we got used to the boat, we suddenly found, a bit like riding a bicycle with this massive spinnaker, we suddenly realized how to handle the boat, how to steer it downwind. And in the last regatta, in 40 knots, we were jibing and the boat was absolutely level. So, you know, we suddenly, from this terrible situation of broaching in every jibe, we suddenly worked it out and the boat just took off.
Starting 2.5 hours after the first boat, it was time to see the big guns in action. Designed and optimized for IRC racing, Cape Fling had a competitive edge, but Lord Laidlaw still had to do battle with Hilton Hale on Vulcan, who had started 8 minutes earlier. Beating to the southern weather mark, the 2 new generation racers were neck and neck. But with more than 20 nautical miles still to go, it was anyone's race. The GP42 Vulcan, built in 2007, has a racing pedigree and proved to be highly competitive on the international racing circuit. At 4.1 ton, she's lighter and a lot faster and has already stimulated the interest in offshore racing in this country. Flying their asymmetrical spinnaker, Vulcan rounded the mark just ahead of Cape Fling before starting the downward dash to Dial Rock in the north. The new Cape Fling followed closely and only minutes separated the 2 top contenders. Ladybird, a Farrier F-32 skippered by Andrew Dolloway, rounded the mark at Dial Rock, well ahead of the rest of the multi-hulls in the fleet before heading off to Jutten Island. The wind dropped down to 2 knots and the big swells and rough surf made for some uncomfortable sailing around Jutten Island. Once past the danger zone, the breeze filled in for the run down the 4 nautical mile leg to the northeast buoy in Saldanha Bay. Pants on Fire, the J105 skippered by Dwayne Assis, made good time through the fleet and was likely to finish amongst the lead boats. Vulcan had moved up into 3rd position and was closely followed by Cape Fling. In the medium breeze, it was still hard work to get the maximum speed out of the boats. Heading down to the northeast mark in the middle of the bay, there was very little separating Paul van As on Maestro, a fast 42, one of the new Windsong 37's Cardiac Arrest, and the J111 Tenacity. Cardiac Arrest and Silky are 2 identical carbon fiber racing yachts that were built simultaneously in the Cape. These fun one-design yachts bring a new class to the racing circuit. Built to a Reichel Q design, the Windsong 37s were detuned to make them more forgiving for the 2 old codgers, Nigel Clack and Joe van der Westhuizen.
In every respect, the hull and the deck and the rig is as designed. We just made the rudder and keel slightly more forgiving. The boats are made 100% carbon fiber and epoxy resin. The boats are very strong and very light. So in light winds, I'm sure we'll outperform everyone.
Working the shoreline upwind on starboard tack, the FAR 38AL could be clearly seen coming down the run from the final mark towards the finish, almost 1.5 legs ahead of the rest. There was not another boat to be seen along the entire leg behind them. Their sizable lead gave them an emphatic win to take line honours in the Bay race and a 9th place overall in the IRC division. The rest of the fleet started closing quickly, Coram and Speed of Yellow amongst the front runners who prepared to lay the final mark. But Vulcan and Cape Fling were powering their way through the fleet, resulting in some tight racing around the final weather mark. With only a couple 100 meters to go to the finish, it would be a close call for the 2 top contenders. Cape Fling covering every move made by Vulcan in an attempt to close them down. But it's Pants on Fire, the J105 skippered by Dwayne Assis, that beats Vulcan to the finish line. Their 2nd place in the Bay race secured them a 10th place overall in the IRC division. Vulcan, the GP42, finished the Bay race in 3rd place, with Lord Irvin Laidlaw's Cape Fling following closely behind in 4th. With mere seconds separating the 3, YOLO, Speed of Yellow and Coram finished in 6th, 7th and 8th place respectively. This brought to a close 2 days of frustrating and tactical sailing. After the 26 nautical mile pursuit race and some 6 hours on the water, the cold frosties would go down very well. On corrected time according to the handicap ratings, Hilton Hale and the crew on Vulcan had to finish no worse than 5th in the Bay race to secure an outright win. Taking 3rd place resulted in an overall win on handicap for the entire Mykonos Offshore Regatta.
We're very happy. We came in 3rd today in the pursuit race, so that means we've managed to win the regatta. So I'm really pleased. I'm pleased for the crew. Andrea Giovanni, my tactician, everyone on the boat just did a fantastic job in a really good spirit.
While preparations were being made to host the prize giving, the elite formation aerobatic team of the South African Air Force, the Silver Falcons, treated sailors to their very own display of precision formation aerobatics. On corrected times and handicap ratings, the first 4 places as overall winners of the Mykonos Offshore Regatta goes to Vulcan in first place, followed by Speed of Yellow, Cape Fling and Warrior in 4th place. The Mykonos Offshore Regatta was brought to you by Club Mykonos, Langebaan.